Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. Thank you again for your company. And right now, we're jumping on to our next segment this morning. With me here in studio, I have Steve Mbogo. And lots of you I know have been waiting for this interview. So do tune in and send in your feedback and your questions to 22999. But karibu sana to the show.
Asante,
it's good to have you here this morning. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
And we want to get to know you just a little bit. I think you, in many ways, are sort of a very mysterious person. A lot of people, so they say. Okay, well, hopefully you'll clarify some of that for us. A lot of people seem to have a lot of questions about who you are and what you do and your success. So maybe let's just begin by taking a trip down memory lane, and maybe you can tell us a bit about your childhood and your just life growing up.
Basically, I come a long way. I think I've been in very many media houses and I've spoken about myself, but thank you for giving me the opportunity again. Steve Mbogo is a humble young man from a very simple background, born, bred in Kitale, where I did my primary levels in Kitale, and then came over this side in Nairobi for my secondary and college, university, that's it. And it's been a long journey, to be very honest. And I'm still that ambitious person.
Okay.
I'm one person who has crazy zeal. And I believe I get anything I want.
Where does that zeal and that ambition come from?
To be very honest, I'm one person who used to love reading from childhood.
Okay.
So I try to emulate, and I've had so many role models from childhood. I'm that kind of person who want to know what is the latest news in town. I wanted to know what's the latest design in town. I wanted to know what is the latest car, even from primary school. And I used to believe that anyone can make it. And to be very honest, I want to tell you today, God who's blessed me, that there is nothing I've desired that God has not given me.
Okay.
Even if at times it delays, but at the end of the day, I get it. You know, they say a human being is a product of his or her imaginations. And whatever you think, you become.
Okay.
So from that humble background, though still very humble, apart from what people think and perceive of me, but I believe that any human being has the capacity to be or to achieve whatever he or she wants in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be getting to part of what you say you've achieved and, I guess these successes around you that you would credit. But it's interesting that you've talked about perception, because then it almost seems that you are aware that you're almost a very polarizing figure, or a very controversial figure in some degree, or to some extent. And there's been many things around it, but what's your own perception of yourself, or at least of the way people see you?
No, the reality is, with human lives, especially our society today, we experience a very, very huge negative energy. It is like a crime to find someone from a poor background like me, or a child of a pauper, making it in life, which is a very big cancer. It's something that doesn't affect me. A long time it used to affect me, when people talk bad about you. But it's reached a point, in fact, today, if people don't talk, I'm surprised. And I try to make them talk, because it means maybe they're forgetting me. There's one gentleman, actually is a role model and a mentor to me.
Okay.
And he told me, Steve, let me tell you one thing. It is only a tree with fruits that people throw stones at. You'll never find someone throwing stones to a tree with no fruits. So that clicked my mind, and I'm like, wait a minute. Did he just say that? Yeah, so it means I should be prepared for more stones in life.
Okay.
But to be very honest, look at the media. Look at even most of the talented people we have on the ground today. In the past few weeks, we've seen even very many talented young people quit. And the only reason they're saying it's because they're being trolled or being given that negative perception in the society. You see, what I want to tell them, and then I really want to encourage them and tell them, don't stop. Nothing comes easy. The more you burn the gold, the more pure it becomes. So it reaches a point where you turn that negativity to your own advantage. But at the same time, I know, for me personally, I'm a role model to many. There's so many people I speak to personally, or even on social media, so many people I've not met. And even a word means a lot.
Okay, I want us to, I'll come to that in a moment. But I think one of the things that is polarizing about you is that people just don't understand your success. And I don't think, I mean, I think we celebrate people who've come from humble beginnings and rise. But I think the biggest question with you is, what is the source of your wealth?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I believe it is not my duty or your duty to go around advertising or saying how you make your money. A businessman who's been in business for so long, I want to tell you, I started paying my fees from Form 3. When I was in high school in Form 3, that is down in St. Aquinas, I want to tell you, I used to sell scrap metals at the age of 16. I used to collect all the scrap metals. All those street kids used to collect scrap metals all over Eastlands, because at that time I was staying at Bahati. And all those kids who used to collect scrap metals, I thought of an idea, and I'm like, wait a minute, these guys have to carry all this scrap all the way to industrial area on their backs. So why don't I create a point of sale for them? Why don't they deliver to me? And then I get an Indian from industrial area who will come and pick up every Friday.
And
that's how I started. I was 16 years old. And with that, I used to manage my personal life, food, everything, because back then my mom was in Kitale. And being raised by a single mother, you know how hard it is. So you have to fight. So by the time I was done with high school, I remember the first time I went to China, I was 19 years old.
So this Indian businessman trusted a 16-year-old.
And not one of them. I used to deal with about 3 or 4 scrap dealers. You see, it's not about age. Look at the billionaires of today. Look at the CEOs of all these companies. Look at young people like Mark Zuckerberg. Today he's number 6 in the Forbes list. He's worth more than $60 billion.
Sure. But I think, again, with Mark Zuckerberg, it's very clear to see what his income is, right?
Yeah,
and so you're saying at 19 you were traveling to China, was it still the scrap metal business?
I remember when I was 19 years old, when I went to China at that time, it was I'm talking about back in 2007, 2006, 7, 8. I want to tell you, at that time, people never used to speak English in China. You can imagine how difficult it was. But I had a belief that if I can go to any point of sale, or maybe the manufacturing point of any commodity, I can make money. I was the first person to bring in the first Chinese twin SIM phones in this country, and they can check the records. I was the first person to bring in motorbikes on hire purchase. At that time, we've tried, we've pushed, from humble beginnings, step by step. But let me ask you, is it my obligation now to come and tell Kenyans, I have 10 businesses, I make 5 million in this business a day or in a week, I make this money in this? No.
Perhaps it isn't.
You see, the few who've come to me for mentorship, I also do mentorship programs. I've sat with them, I've mentored them, I've given them connections, I've given them my networks. I might not have money to give people, but the little knowledge and experience and wisdom, you can suckle from my nipples,
Perhaps it isn't, but
Yes.
I think certainly you've lived and you continue to live a very flashy and flamboyant lifestyle, right? You're on record as having talked about the cost of your suits, being $8,000.
Yeah, it's true.
So when one talks like that, then surely, and at the same time you're saying that, you are a role model to many young people, you see them looking up to you. Surely a role model would be able to at least describe their businesses to these people, young people that are looking up to you, because they're aspiring to do the same.
Very true.
So I think that the biggest question is why it's so secretive. You can look at Warren Buffett's money and know where it came from. You can look at Bill Gates and know where it came from. The same Zuckerberg that you're quoting and know where it came from. But in an economy like ours, I think for a figure, especially like yourself, who's so public in nature, that's always going to be a question.
So I'll ask you a question today. Look at all the top big politicians you have today. Let's even start with the presidency and all these big business political figures. Majority of them are in business, but you don't know their business. Kenyans don't know their business. Personally, I believe in diversification.
Okay.
I told you I started from scrap.
Yeah.
I went into commodity. Till today, I do commodity trading. I went into mining.
Okay.
Right now, I'm in big time agriculture and food processing. We
Yeah.
do food exports as well. And so many other development projects. I'm in real estate. We buy huge chunks of land, subdivide and sell also. So I'm one person who believes that you cannot limit yourself.
Okay.
You see the opportunities. I started a program, if you go back 3 years ago, to Ebru TV. It's similar Shark Tank idea. And the program was called Boiler Room, where we will let young people come to pitch projects to us, give us the projections, and we invest. I personally invested in more than 30 companies from Boiler Room,
Okay.
where young people came with noble business ideas. And you see, there are times when you look at business and say, okay, I might have money to give someone, but you see, helping someone or elevating someone in business is not all about giving them money. It's all about also the expertise and the experience and the exposure and the thought process towards achieving success in the business.
Okay.
So we decided together with a partner of mine from America that why don't we look at the best ideas and we put in our money over taking, we take small shares of the company between 20 to 40%.
Noted. And I guess I also want to talk about your flamboyance, which is, you know, to some degree is a good thing. But I guess in other measures, it's a little, don't you think it's a little much?
Now, let me ask you. I remember when I was young, I used to make sure I watch Channel O during
Okay,
our time.
yeah.
You know, we didn't have the beat. The beat came later, yeah?
Yeah.
But if you wanted to look at American artists at that time, we used to watch Channel O in the evening.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, if there's one thing I fancied was particularly a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
Dressing, my watch, my driving, my
Your
car,
phones.
my phones, you know. It's all about, it gives you confidence. Let me tell you, and let no one lie to you. Number one, in any event, let's say you want to have a meeting or you want to strike any type of business or you want to impress anyone, your first appearance is everything.
Sure, sure.
That is to the other party. But I want to remind you that deep down yourself, even when you wake up in the morning, that's why everyone has a mirror in his house.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at how you look and the way people will look at you when you go out there.
But isn't there
So
a difference
that-
between confidence and just almost a sense or an air of arrogance, really? Where does humility check in into all of this? And for someone of your stature, I mean, if from 16 you're already making money and paying your own school fees, at this point in time, do you really need to be flashing all that on social media?
It's not all about flashing, but how does it harm when I decide to buy an expensive shoe and wear it?
It's
Do you
just
know? Do you know? I have become motivated just by seeing some people own some things, even a simple pen like a
Sure,
Mont
sure.
Blanc pen or a Mont Blanc belt. You understand? So it is how we define things. When you go to, actually, I have so many francophone business partners and friends in different countries, from Ghana, Mali, and there's one thing I learned about the French, and basically also the Italians. My first son is Italian, half Italian, and I learned something from the Italian lifestyle, and they tell you how you present yourself, how you live, how you appreciate yourself determines how you will shape your thought process, and that is very true.
Sure. But do you not see that that same philosophy is what also helps contribute to your controversial persona?
No, but that's fine. If that will make people perceive you as controversial, then it's fine. But I'm not going to bow down and say, if I can afford, sometimes I save to own something.
Sure.
I give you an example. I can decide to save and buy a phone like this. Not because necessarily I want to show it to people, but it makes me feel nice that at least I had a dream and I achieved it. Dreams is not all about big things. I know of a friend of mine, I remember one time I was with him in Dubai, and he saw a very good Mont Blanc bag, you know, like the briefcase bag. And it was about $18,000. You can imagine, a small bag. It was about $1.8 million, 1.8 million shillings. And the guy told me, Steve, if there's something I want, is this bag. You know, just the manifestation of saying I want this thing. And funny thing, After 2-3 days, he had a small deal he was doing, a business deal. He was brokering a property where someone was selling it, and the guy bought it, and he earned $20,000. You know, he came pick me up from my house in Dubai to the mall so that I could see him buy the bag, and I loved it.
But moving back to you though, you're not just flashing money and wallets and, you know, fancy shoes. You've been on social media flashing even guns.
You see, that's why I say there's always so much negative energy within us. I'll give you an example.
I need you to clarify that statement.
I'll give you an example, yeah? The incident about the gun issue. I want to remind you, I've had my gun license for more than 10 years.
Sure.
Not even once anyone has seen my weapon. Not even once I've spoken about owning or exposing my weapon anywhere. But when Steve Mbogo runs in to do it, because my friends and my business partners have called me under duress that they're stuck in there, now Steve Mbogo becomes the flashing figure. We had so many civilians with guns there, but the only person who was spoken about was Steve Mbogo.
But there's a picture of you posing.
No. If you look at that picture, there are two pictures. There's one picture with one guy called Mwitiki.
Who we're going to talk about
Yes,
later.
Mwitiki. If you look at that picture, I didn't know who took the picture. Look at the picture very well. It's someone, actually someone sent it to me. I have a friend of mine called Nyanja. He's the one who sent me the picture, and he's like, hey, what are you doing there? I'm like, who took this picture? And it's like, it's all over social media. I want to remind you, I was a victim at Westgate attack. My friend was shot. I jumped 2 floors down. I had a weapon, but with the type of attack and where I was, I could not even use it. You know, it reaches a time where you can't even use a weapon if you had it.
So with Dusit, you just felt an obligation to go
With
there.
Dusit, and let me tell you, I have done so much to do with, since my experience with Westgate, I've really done a lot of research. And I even did so many articles, which were never put in the newspapers, about, I spoke about protecting our schools before it's too late. 2 months later, Garissa University was attacked. No media house called me for a media briefing or maybe an interview. No newspaper wrote, but I supplied in all media houses. And I said, hey guys, look, we are concentrating in bus stations, in churches, in malls. We are forgetting the kids. What is terrorism?
Okay.
A terrorist is one person who wants to send a message and create fear. It's not that it's someone who can come and decide and, you know, we are fighting, we're doing a ground battle. No, he'll only want to send a message to you. So the best spots for them are these weakling spots, like a hospital, like a bus station, like a school. We've seen from examples, you know. So it's not a matter of I not having an idea. I have been training mentally, physically, and I'm one person. Let me tell you, to be very honest today, if I hear there's any attack somewhere, I'll be the first in the front line. I know how it feels when someone takes you out of that situation. I know how it feels when you hear, my brother is out there trying to help us come out. Do you know how many people I rescued from those buildings at Dusit? And we don't talk about it. I've never spoken about it because I didn't do it to, you know, people will say you're going to pause.
So you it's funny because you say you don't talk about it, which is a very noble thing to talk about, but then you'll flash your money. So isn't the choice up to you?
So I can
which you focus on.
Okay, let us not be personal.
It's
If I may ask you, when was the last time you saw me flash money? Or wearing an expensive suit is flashing money? No, let's be realistic.
You've quoted the amount of your suits. And I'm just trying to posit that the same way that you're saying it is unnecessary for people to focus on
you see, that is the energy.
I'm
and
just
I want
trying
to
to
start
say that you can also control this narrative.
Yes. You see, let me ask you. I'm in this interview with you today. For example, you've seen this phone and you ask me how much it is. I'll tell you it's $3,000, yeah? Maybe around 2,500. That's about 250,000. Now, is that flashy? You've asked me a question.
It's the cost of the phone.
It's the cost of the phone. Now, I go to a media house and someone asks me, so what do you love? I say, I love dressing. And what's your most expensive suit, or how much is this suit? And they tell you it's $8,000. And when you Google it, it's $8,000. Is that being flashy?
So you feel it was taken out of context?
It was taken out of context, and it is something you can't control in this society. But
Okay.
I will never stop telling people and talking to people. We have to change our mindset. There's nothing that personally I will feel good when I see you buy or wear that Guesepes are not issue. You know, it gives me that energy that, hey, we can do it. Hey, this is someone who appreciates himself. Hey, this is someone who know what they want. And let me tell you, it's all about positivity.
Okay.
And people have to be positive.
So I want us to take a break now,
Yeah.
Mr. Mbogo.
Thank you.
And when we come back,
Yes.
I want us to dive into politics, because
Good.
there's a lot of negativity in that space, not in terms of the politicking even, but just even the way this country is being run.
Yeah.
And almost a sense of hopelessness among the young people watching this show, that the young people that they're hoping to see up there are not doing what we thought they would be doing. I'd love to get your comments on that. We also want to hear his ambitions moving forward. Of course, he did run in 2017. Do we expect to see you on the
Yeah,
ballot
of
in
course.
2022?
Of
We're going to
course.
be talking about that as well. And of course, he did mention a friend of his. There's some questions around that as well coming up next on the show. 22999 is the SMS line. I'll see you shortly.